Everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. So here today we are going to be looking at the standard equation of a circle. Where does it come from? So now let's look at an example. If you have, let's say you have something like this. Let's say we have a circle like that. Now this circle has got a point P at this point. Now let's say we have a point P there. This point P has got coordinates x and y like that. So this circle has got a center. Now the coordinates of the center, let's call them h and k like that. Now as you have noticed, this distance is a distance of a straight line. So this is a straight line. Therefore, the distance of a straight line is given by, if you have distance, it is equal to, we say that the distance of the straight line is equal to the square of the difference, which is your x2 minus your x1 squared, plus the difference of the y coordinates, which is y2 minus the y1 like that, squared like that. So this is the distance of a straight line like that. So it is from this formula that we are going to derive the equation, or the standard equation of a circle. So how does it work? So firstly, as you can see now, this is the straight line, which is from here up to here, not the, okay, so just okay, let me leave it in red. Yeah, so with that distance from here up to here, that is the straight line. We have x and y, then we have our h and k. So how does it work? So this distance has coordinates. So as we can see something like x and y, we can see h and k. So we have just changed that approach. Now let's make our x2 to be x, our y2 to be y, so that this equation becomes equal to, okay, before that, let us square both of them, so that we have, when we square this, we are going to have d squared, which is the distance squared, should be equal to, if we square this power and this root cancels, so we are going to have our x2 minus our x1 squared plus our y2 minus y1, and then we are going to have our squared like that. Then this means that, as you can see now, this distance from here, from any point on the circumference to the center is the radius. So this distance is the radius squared, should be equal to, we are going to have our x, our x2 will be this one at the end here, which is our x. We are going to say x minus our x1, which is our center coordinate, which is our h squared, then plus, we are going to have our y2, in this case will just be our y, so we are going to say y minus our y1, which is going to be k like that, then we have squared. So this is the standard equation of a circle. So this is the radius, which should be squared. Then with the center coordinates, we are going to have the center coordinate with h comma k like that. Then we have the radius, which should be equal to r like that. Then let's take an example. So provided with this question, it says write down the equation of the circle with the center 5, -7 and the radius of 4. So we are going to have the radius squared is equal to, we are going to have our x minus our h squared plus our y minus our k squared like that. So the radius is 4. So we are going to have 4 squared is equal to, we have our x minus the center coordinate of x is we have 5, so we are going to have minus our 5 like that squared plus our y minus the center coordinate for y is equal to -7, so we have minus -7. So take note of this. Have you seen we have put it in brackets as well. Then we have this squared. So we are going to have 4 squared is equal to 16, should be equal to, we have our x minus 5 squared, then we have plus, we have our y, negative by negative, it will be positive 7 squared, like that. So this is the equation of the circle required. So this is your answer for that one. Let's move on to our next one. So let's look at this simple arrangement. We have write down the coordinates of the center and the radius of these circles. So coordinates of the center. So remember, the formula is that r squared is equal to, we have x minus our h squared, then we have plus our y minus k squared. So remember this, the r is squared, so whatever you see, you have to equate it. R squared is equal to that, this should be equal to that. So in other words, you are going to compare it in that way. So you are going to have your x, as you can see there, then this is your h coordinate, like that. So you can do it in two ways. You can get this equation and say it will be equal to x, then you have plus, not plus, but you have your minus, this equation as minus. Then how do you maintain the positive? It means to say even 3 has to be negative if you want to express it in this form. Minus the negative 3, then we have the squared, plus you have your y. In order for you to maintain, we are going to have minus, then you have your positive 1, like that. Squared should be equal to, we have our 4, like that. Now the reason why we have done this is because the equation has got minus, so that means to say we are going to have a negative, we have a negative, so we have x minus, even this one has to have negative, so that when you multiply negative by negative, it will be x plus 3 to maintain the original meaning. Now for this one, you are just going to take the positive, because this negative shows that if you put negative here also, it will be y plus 1, which will change the meaning. But you can just do this by looking at it. So it means to say for this equation, it has got coordinates. So we have the center. When you do that, the center, it will be negative 3 comma a positive 1, with that arrangement and understanding. So you can just do that. If you want, I think this could be easy. Just write the equation of a circle, which is x minus that, and get your negative h is equal to whatever coordinate is here, which is your 3, because we know that h is the coordinate. You divide by negative 1, your h coordinate will be equal to negative 3. You also get your negative k, you also get your negative k to be equal to, so it's negative k according to the general. You get whatever is here, you are going to have your negative 1 over negative 1 over negative 1 to get k is equal to positive 1, so that the center still becomes your negative 3 comma positive 1, whichever is easier for you. Then the radius, as you can see, we are going to get this r squared, equate it to this number. So we are going to have our r squared is equal to 4. Find the square root. Find the square root. R is equal to positive 2, like that. So that is how we find. So we have found that the center is negative 3 comma 1. The radius is equal to 2. Let's look at another one. So if you have this, it is not an exception. So you are going to do the same thing. So the equation of the circle is r squared is equal to, we have our x minus h squared plus our y minus k squared, like that. So now, with that said, let's find the center. So you can say comparing with standard circle, equation, we are going to have, you just get your negative 5 over 2, you equate it to the h, which is your negative h, like that. So from there, you're going to divide by negative 1. Negative 1 divided by negative 1 is the same as multiplying by negative 1 on both sides, so that it's much easier to understand. Negative by negative is positive. So h is equal to 5 over 4. Same approach, you are going to get your negative 3 and say negative 3 should be equal to negative k. You divide by negative 1, your k should be equal to 3. Remember, the center is equal to h comma k, like that, so that your h is your 5 over 2 and your k is equal to 3. So this is the center, like that. Then to get the radius, so you are going to look at the equation, and the radius is this. So we are going to say the radius r squared should be equal to whatever number is there. So find the square root. So the square root of 32 is the same as 16 times 2 is 32. So I haven't changed anything. According to radicals, this can be written as, you can split these numbers by saying the square root of 16 times the square root of the number, which is our 2, which will give us our r squared. Whatever you find the square root on both sides, not just one side. Yeah. So this and this cancels. You are going to have r. The square root of 16 is equal to 4. Then times the square root of 2 cannot be evaluated, like that. So this is the radius. So we have said that the center should be equal to, we have 5 over 2 comma 3, and the radius should be equal to 4 root of 2, like that. So we have this question. The line AB is a diameter of the circle where A and B are 4,7 and negative 8,3 respectively. Find the equation of the circle. So from this circle, we are required to know, so we have the circle, like that. So from this circle, we have a line which is the diameter, meaning to say it's a line touching the circle at 2 points. So we have this line which is at A and at B. So this is the diameter, with A being at 4,7, like that, with B being at negative 8,3, like that. So with this done, we are going to have, now remember, the equation of a circle is given by r squared is equal to x minus h squared plus our y minus k squared. So this h and k are coordinates of the center. So meaning to say, we need to know the center. So if we have a straight line, how can we know the center? So the center can be found by finding the midpoint of a straight line, since this diameter is a straight line. So let's find the equation of the center and find the radius, so we can begin in that direction. So we are going to have our midpoint. So I've explained why we find the midpoint, because the midpoint is the center of a radius, or is the center of the diameter, which we need the coordinates of the diameter. So the midpoint, according to coordinate geometry, is given by x1 plus x2 over 2. Then we have our y1 plus our y2 over a 2, like that. The midpoint for the coordinates that we have are A is at 4,7, then B is at negative 8, positive 3. So to find the midpoint, we are going to have our x1. So this one is our x1 y1, x2, y2. So we are going to get them like that. So the formula says x1 plus x2. So we are going to have x1 is equal to, we have our 4 plus our x2 is negative 8. So we are going to say negative 8 over, we have the 2 comma our y1 now. y1 is 7. So we are going to say 7 plus our y2, which is our 3, over a 2 like that. This is going to give us a 4. Negative by positive, it will be negative. We have 8 over 2. Then we have 7 plus 3 is 10 over a 2. This is going to give us 4 minus 8. We are going to have a negative 4 like that over a 2, comma 10 over 2, that's 5. So to find the coordinates there, we are going to have a negative 2, comma 5. So this is the midpoint. In this case, which is the center coordinates. So these are the center coordinates like that. So now if you have found the center coordinates, before you can write, you need to know the radius. Now remember, first let's find the length, because radius is the length actually. So we are going to have, for the coordinates that are having, A is 4,7 and B is negative 8,3, the distance, the length of the diameter, which is our AB, should be equal to the square root of our x1, x2, sorry. Even if you interchange them, the answer will be the same, plus y2 minus y1 squared. So we are going to have the square root of our x2. So same approach, we have our x1, y1, x2, y2. So we are going to have our x2 is negative 8, then our minus our x1 is 4. We square them. Then we are going to have plus our y2, which is our 3. So we can say 3 minus our y1, which is our 7, squared like that. So we are going to have the square root of negative 8 minus 4 is negative 12 squared, plus 3 minus 7 is negative 4 squared, which will give us the square root of negative 12 squared. It's in brackets, so therefore it will be positive. So we have 144 plus negative 4 squared, that will be a 16, like that. So when we add 144 plus 16, we are going to have 160. So this is the distance of AB. So we are going to have our square root of 16 times 10. That's the same as 160. We just want a number that has got a square root, the highest number there, which is 16. Then we are going to get, we can split this by saying the square root of 16 times the square root of 10, which will be the square root of 16 is 4, the square root of 10. We cannot evaluate it, so we can have the diameter like that. Now remember, the equation of the circle is r squared is equal to x minus h squared plus our y minus k squared. Now if that's the case, that means to say we need the radius, and we know that the radius is half the size of the diameter. So therefore, to find the radius, we are going to say 1 over 2 times the size of the diameter, which is a 4 square root of 10, like that. 4 divided by 2 is 2, so we have the radius, which is equal to 2 square root of 10, like that. Finally, we have everything. The radius is that. Then we have also found the center, which was found to be our values. What was our center? So our center was negative 2, 5. So we are going to say negative 2, 5, like that. Then to find finally our r squared should be equal to, we are going to have, so this is the equation of the circle. So this is the standard equation of the circle. So we have our r squared should be equal to, we have x minus h squared plus our y minus k. Then we are going to have squared. So our r value in this case is a 2 square root of 10. Then we square this, should be equal to our x minus, what is our h value? Our h value is negative 2. So we are going to put it there. So we have our negative 2, just don't make a mistake. We have squared plus our y minus, our k value is 5, remember. So we have 5, then we square them. We are going to have the square, we have 2 squared. This 2 can be, square can be distributed. We have the square root of 10. We also square this, should be equal to, we have our x, negative by negative, it will be positive 2. Then we have the squared there, plus we have our y minus 5 squared, like that. So we have a 4. This and this cancels. We have 4 times a 10. Now we can just write 40. So whatever comes out there, we have a 40. But if you are not conversant with it, you can write times 10 there. Then we are going to have x plus 2 squared plus our y minus 5. Then we have our squared, like that. So this is the required equation of the circle. That's that on the standard equation of the circle. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you would like, subscribe, and share for more. In the next video, we are going to be looking at the general equation of the circle. See you in the next tutorial.